Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy.
So what's the plan for tonight?
Rico asked, leaning back and stretching his arms across the back of the bench. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his leather jacket gleamed under the harsh lighting. Ralph, sporting a faded band t-shirt and ripped jeans, shrugged. I don't know, maybe hit up the arcade, or we could catch a movie. Mikey perked up at the mention of a movie. Oh, there's this new rom-com that just came out. Of course you'd want to see a chick flick, Rico teased, elbowing Mikey playfully. What's next? You gonna start wearing dresses to the mall? Ralph snickered. Hey, don't give him any ideas. Remember when we found his secret stash of makeup last month? Mikey's cheeks flushed a deep red. That was for a Halloween costume. He mumbled, shrinking into his hoodie.
Sure it was, buddy,
Rico said, patting Mikey's shoulder.
No judgment here. You do you.
Ralph leaned in, squinting at Mikey's face. Wait a minute. Are you wearing makeup right now? Mikey's eyes widened, and he instinctively turned away. What? No, of course not. Rico grabbed Mikey's chin, turning his face towards the light. Holy shit, he is! Look at those eyelashes. And is that lip gloss? Mikey jerked away from Rico's grip, his face burning with embarrassment.
So what if it is? It's not a big deal.
Ralph raised an eyebrow. Not a big deal? Dude, you're out here looking like you're ready for prom. What's going on? Mikey stood up abruptly, his fists clenched at his sides. You know what? Forget the movie. I've got a better idea. Rico and Ralph exchanged confused glances. What are you talking about? Rico asked. Just give me a few minutes, Mikey said, his voice trembling slightly. Meet me at the fountain in 15 minutes. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Before his friends could protest, Mikey darted off towards the bathrooms, leaving Rico and Ralph bewildered on the bench. What the hell was that about? Ralph asked, scratching his head. Rico shrugged. No clue. But I've got a feeling tonight's about to get real interesting. The minutes ticked by slowly as Rico and Ralph waited by the fountain, both lost in their own thoughts. The rhythmic splash of water provided a soothing backdrop to the bustling mall around them. You don't think he's going to do something stupid, do you? Ralph asked, breaking the silence. Rico shook his head. Nah, Mikey's not like that. He's probably just... His words were cut short as a figure approached them from the direction of the bathrooms. At first glance, neither of them recognized the person walking towards them. It was a girl, about their age, with long brown hair cascading over her shoulders. She wore a form-fitting red dress paired with black heels that clicked against the tile floor. As the girl got closer, Rico's jaw dropped. Holy shit, he whispered. Ralph's eyes widened in disbelief. No way, that can't be. The girl stopped in front of them, a nervous smile playing on her perfectly glossed lips. Hey guys, she said, and the voice that came out was unmistakably Mikey's. For a moment, neither Rico nor Ralph could speak. They stared at their friend, trying to reconcile the image before them with the Mikey they thought they knew. Mikey! Ralph finally managed to choke out. What? How? I don't understand. Mikey smoothed down the front of the dress, looking more confident than they'd ever seen him. I've been wanting to show you this side of me for a while now. I just never knew how. Rico blinked rapidly, as if trying to clear his vision. This side of you? Dude, you look like a completely different person. How did you even do this? Mikey laughed softly. I've had a lot of practice. The dress and wig were in my backpack. As for the rest, well, let's just say I'm pretty good with makeup. Ralph shook his head, still struggling to process what he was seeing. But why? I mean, we knew you were into this stuff, but this is a lot. Mikey's smile faltered slightly. Because this is who I am. At least part of who I am. I'm tired of hiding it. Rico ran a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. So, what, you're telling us you want to be a girl now? It's not that simple, Mikey said, fidgeting with the strap of his purse. I don't always feel like this, but sometimes I do. And when I do, I want to be able to express it. Ralph stood up, pacing in a small circle. I don't know, man. This is a lot to take in. You can't just spring something like this on us and expect everything to be cool. Mikey's face fell. I thought you guys would understand. You're my best friends. Rico stood up too, putting a hand on Ralph's shoulder to stop his pacing. We are your friends, Mikey. It's just, this is pretty shocking, you know? Give us a minute to wrap our heads around it. Mikey nodded, blinking back tears that threatened to ruin his carefully applied mascara. I get it. It's a lot. But I'm still me, guys. I'm still the same person you've always known. Ralph let out a long breath. Are you, though? Because right now, I'm not sure I know you at all. The tension in the air was palpable as the three friends stood in awkward silence. Shoppers passed by, some casting curious glances at the unusual scene unfolding by the fountain. Mikey cleared his throat. Look, I know this is weird, but can we just try to have a normal night? Maybe go see that movie I mentioned earlier? Rico and Ralph exchanged uncertain looks. I don't know, Mikey, Rico said. You really want to go to a movie looking like that? Why not? Mikey challenged, a hint of defiance in his voice. I look good, don't I? Ralph shifted uncomfortably. That's not the point. People are going to stare. They're going to talk. Mikey lifted his chin. Let them. I'm done caring what other people think. Rico sighed, running a hand over his face. Mikey, come on, be realistic. This isn't just about you. How do you think we feel being seen with you like this? The words hung in the air, heavy and hurtful. Mikey's confident facade cracked, revealing the vulnerability underneath. I thought you'd be supportive. Ralph's expression softened slightly. We're trying, man. But you've got to understand, this is a lot to process. You can't expect us to just be okay with it right away. Mikey nodded slowly, blinking back tears. I get it. I do. But this is important to me. I need you guys to at least try to understand. Rico took a deep breath. Okay, let's take a walk. Maybe grab some coffee and talk about this. We can't just stand here in the middle of the mall all night. Ralph nodded in agreement. Yeah, that sounds good. We need to figure this out. Mikey managed a small smile. Thanks, guys. That means a lot. The three friends made their way towards the mall exit, drawing curious glances from passersby. Mikey walked with his head held high, though his hands trembled slightly as he clutched his purse. As they stepped out into the cool night air, Rico turned to Mikey. So, do we still call you Mikey, or do you have a different name when you're like this? Mikey thought for a moment. Michelle. When I'm dressed like this, I prefer Michelle. Ralph nodded slowly. Okay, Michelle it is then. They walked in silence for a few blocks, each lost in their own thoughts. The streets were relatively quiet, with only the occasional car passing by. Finally, they reached a small coffee shop on the corner. The warm light spilling out onto the sidewalk looked inviting, a stark contrast to the tension among the friends. This place okay? Rico asked, gesturing to the shop. Mikey, or rather Michelle, nodded. Yeah, this is fine. They entered the cafe, the bell above the door announcing their arrival. The barista behind the counter looked up, her eyes widening slightly as she took in the unusual trio. What can I get for you? She asked, her voice carefully neutral. Rico ordered a black coffee, Ralph a latte, and Michelle hesitated before asking for a chai tea. They found a table in the corner, away from the few other patrons in the shop. As they settled into their seats, an awkward silence fell over the group. Michelle fidgeted with her cup, avoiding eye contact with her friends. Ralph was the first to speak. So, how long have you been, doing this? Michelle took a sip of her tea before answering. A couple of years, I guess, but I've felt this way for as long as I can remember. Rico leaned forward, his brow furrowed. And you never thought to tell us? We're supposed to be your best friends. I wanted to. Michelle said softly.
So many times. But I was scared. I didn't know how you'd react.
Ralph snorted.
Well, now you know. We're freaking out.
Michelle flinched at his words.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spring it on you like this. I couldn't keep hiding it anymore.
Rico sighed, running a hand through his hair.
I get that, I guess. But man, this is a lot to take in. I mean, 1 minute you're Mikey, our buddy who we've known since grade school, and the next you're this.
I'm still me, Michelle insisted.
Whether I'm Mikey or Michelle, I'm still the same person inside.
Ralph shook his head.
But are you? Because the Mikey we know doesn't wear dresses and makeup. The Mikey we know doesn't turn himself into a girl for fun.
Michelle's eyes flashed with anger.
It's not for fun. This isn't some game or fetish. This is who I am.
But why? Rico asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Why do you feel the need to do this? Michelle took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. It's hard to explain. It's like there's this part of me that's always been there, just under the surface. When I dress like this, when I become Michelle, I feel whole. Like I'm finally being true to myself. Ralph leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms.
And what about the rest of the time, when you're just regular old Mikey?
That's part of me too, Michelle explained. Some days I feel more like Mikey, some days I feel more like Michelle.
It's fluid, I guess you could say.
Rico nodded slowly, processing the information.
So what, you're like gender fluid or something?
Michelle smiled, relieved that Rico was making an effort to understand.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I don't always feel like one gender or the other. It changes.
Ralph still looked skeptical.
And you expect us to just roll with this? To be okay with our friend suddenly turning into a girl whenever he feels like it?
Michelle's smile faded. I'm not asking you to be okay with it right away. I know it's a lot to take in. I just want you to try to understand, to accept me for who I am. Rico reached out, hesitantly placing his hand on Michelle's.
We're trying, man. It's going to take some time to get used to.
Michelle nodded, blinking back tears.
I know. And I appreciate that you're willing to try. That means more to me than you know.
Ralph sighed, his expression softening slightly.
Look, Mikey, I mean, Michelle, whatever. You're our friend. That's not going to change. But you've got to understand. This is weird for us. We need time to process it.
I understand, Michelle said softly. And I'm sorry for springing it on you like this. I should have found a better way to tell you. Rico squeezed Michelle's hand gently before pulling away.
Maybe next time, a little warning before you go full Cinderella on us, okay?
Michelle laughed, the tension breaking slightly.
Deal. No more surprise transformations.
As they finished their drinks, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. They talked about school, about the latest movies, about anything other than the elephant in the room. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As they left the coffee shop, stepping back out into the night, Rico turned to Michelle.
So what now? You want to go home and change, or...
Michelle hesitated. Actually, if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to stay like this for a while longer. Maybe we could still catch that movie. Ralph and Rico exchanged glances. Finally, Ralph shrugged.
Why not? We've come this far.
Rico nodded.
Yeah, okay, but fair warning, if anyone hits on you, I'm not playing wingman.
Michelle laughed, linking her arms through her friends.
Deal. Now, come on. I hear the popcorn calling our names.
As they walked towards the movie theater, Michelle felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't perfect, and she knew there would be more challenges ahead. But for now, she was happy to be herself, surrounded by friends who were trying their best to understand. The movie theater lobby was bustling with activity as the three friends approached the ticket counter. Michelle could feel the curious stares of other patrons, but she held her head high, determined not to let it bother her.
3 for love in the time of aliens, please. Rico said to the ticket seller, who raised an eyebrow but said nothing as he handed over the tickets. As they made their way to the concession stand, Ralph nudged Michelle. "You sure about this movie? It sounds pretty cheesy." Michelle grinned. "Sometimes cheesy is exactly what you need. Besides, who doesn't love a good alien romance?" Rico rolled his eyes. "I can think of at least 2 people," he muttered, but there was a hint of amusement in his voice. They loaded up on popcorn and drinks before heading into the theater. As they settled into their seats, Michelle couldn't help but feel a sense of normalcy returning. Despite her appearance, despite the earlier drama, they were just 3 friends about to watch a movie together. The lights dimmed and the previews began to roll. Michelle found herself relaxing, sinking into the plush seat. She glanced at Rico and Ralph, relieved to see them both engrossed in the screen, seemingly unbothered by her presence. As the movie progressed, Michelle found herself getting caught up in the admittedly ridiculous plot. She laughed at the cheesy dialogue, gasped at the plot twists, and even found herself tearing up during the emotional climax. Halfway through the film, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Rico leaning towards her. "Hey," he whispered. "I just wanted to say, you look happy. Like, really happy." Michelle felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I am," she whispered back. "Thank you for giving this a chance." Rico nodded, a small smile on his face. "That's what friends are for, right?" On her other side, Ralph leaned in. "Are you two going to talk through the whole movie?" "Some of us are trying to watch the alien make-out session." Michelle stifled a giggle, turning her attention back to the screen. As she watched the improbable romance unfold between the human protagonist and her alien love interest, she couldn't help but draw parallels to her own situation. Sometimes love and acceptance came from the most unexpected places. As the credits rolled and the lights came up, the 3 friends stretched and gathered their empty popcorn buckets. "Okay, I'll admit it," Ralph said as they filed out of the theater. "That wasn't half bad." Rico nodded in agreement. "Yeah, who knew alien romance could be so compelling?" Michelle beamed. "See? I told you it would be fun." As they stepped out into the cool night air, a comfortable silence fell over the group. The earlier tension had dissipated, replaced by a tentative acceptance. "So," Rico said, breaking the silence. "What's next? You want us to drop you off at home, or—" Michelle hesitated. "Actually, I was thinking maybe we could go for a walk. There's a park nearby, and it's such a nice night." Ralph and Rico exchanged glances. "You sure about that?" Ralph asked. "It's pretty late, and you're kind of noticeable." Michelle squared her shoulders. "I'm sure I want to enjoy this feeling a little longer." Rico shrugged. "All right, but if anyone gives us trouble, I'm blaming you." They set off towards the park, their footsteps echoing on the quiet streets. As they walked, Michelle felt a surge of gratitude for her friends. Despite their initial shock and discomfort, they were here, walking beside her, trying to understand. The park was deserted at this late hour, the moonlight casting long shadows across the grass. They found a bench near a small pond, the water's surface rippling gently in the night breeze. As they sat down, Michelle took a deep breath. "Guys, I just want to say thank you. For tonight, for everything. I know this isn't easy for you." Ralph shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, well, you're our friend. That's what matters, right?" Rico nodded. "Exactly. We might not understand everything, but we're here for you. Always." Michelle felt tears welling up in her eyes. "You have no idea how much that means to me. I was so scared of losing you both." "Hey, no crying," Rico said, nudging her gently. "You'll ruin your makeup." Michelle laughed through her tears. "Right, can't have that. I spent way too long on this look." Ralph cleared his throat. "So, is this going to be a regular thing now? Should we expect to see Michelle more often?" Michelle considered the question. "I'm not sure. Maybe. I'd like to be able to express this side of myself more openly. But I know it's an adjustment for everyone." Rico nodded thoughtfully. Well, whatever you decide, just keep us in the loop, okay? No more surprise transformations.
Deal, Michelle agreed.
And I promise, next time I'll give you a heads up before I go full glam.
They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching the moonlight dance on the pond's surface. Despite the late hour, none of them seemed eager to end the night. Finally, Ralph stood up, stretching. We should probably head home. It's getting late, and I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. Michelle nodded, suddenly aware of how tired she was. The emotional roller coaster of the evening had taken its toll. Yeah, you're right. I should get home and change before my parents wake up. As they walked back towards the mall where they'd left their cars, Michelle felt a mix of emotions. Relief that her friends had accepted her, gratitude for their support, and a lingering anxiety about what the future held. When they reached the parking lot, they stood awkwardly for a moment, unsure how to say goodbye. Rico broke the silence.
So, yeah, see you tomorrow for our usual Sunday video game marathon.
Michelle smiled.
Wouldn't miss it, though I might leave the dress at home for that one.
Ralph chuckled.
Probably a good call. Those dresses don't look comfortable for marathon gaming sessions.
They shared a laugh, the tension of the evening finally fully dissipating. Good night, guys, Michelle said, pulling them both into a group hug. Thank you again for everything. As she watched her friends drive away, Michelle felt a sense of peace wash over her. The night hadn't gone as she'd planned, but in many ways it had turned out better than she could have hoped. She climbed into her own car, catching a glimpse of herself in the rearview mirror. The person staring back at her was neither fully Mikey nor fully Michelle, but a blend of both. And for the first time in a long time, she felt truly, completely herself. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.